My entitled lying sister secretly goes on a trip to Paris despite begging me for money to help her pay rent. And after finding out the truth about her secret vacation, and after realizing that she had scammed me out of money for months on end, I finally exposed her and confronted her for the liar that she is. Here's what happened. Okay, so my sister got laid off about 5 months ago. She's really struggled to find another job ever since, simply because things are really bad in her field as people are being laid off left and right. She's currently working as a waitress while she looks for a more permanent job, but isn't earning enough to fully cover her rent. I have a pretty well-paying job, and I share rent with my partner, so I offered to help her cover the rent while she looks for another job. She was extremely grateful, and together we agreed on an amount which would allow her to cover rent and also have some money left over for food or travel. It's important to note that her monthly expenses for food, travel, and bills were all provided by her. I didn't have any issues or suspect that anything was amiss. She hates working as a waitress, so I'm confident that she is doing everything in her power to find another job. The last time I saw her, she mentioned that she has picked up a few extra shifts recently so that she can afford to get our parents a nice anniversary gift, so I figured she was basically living paycheck to paycheck. Well, fast forward to now, and I've just received word from our cousin that my sister is in Paris. When I expressed confusion, my cousin sent me a bunch of screenshots from my sister's Instagram. My sister must have blocked me and my parents on there because none of us could see any of her posts or stories. I was very confused and then very angry, because if she is living paycheck to paycheck, how on earth can she afford to go on a trip to Europe? For context, we live in Australia, and plane tickets typically cost upwards of $1,000, and that's not accounting for food, hotels, or anything else. I was so pissed that not only has she gone on an expensive trip, but she has also clearly tried to hide it from me. I ended up sending her a few short messages, basically saying that I knew she was in Europe, and that clearly she doesn't need my help paying rent anymore if she can afford a big trip. Well, she called me and was basically in tears, begging me not to cut her off. She said that she is on the trip with her new boyfriend and that he is paying for everything. She then insisted that she still needs the money to cover her rent and that she will have to move if I don't help her. But I basically just told her that it was now her problem, and then I hung up the phone, which I will admit was childish of me, but I was still so mad. Now, I don't know much about her new boyfriend, so maybe he's a millionaire or something like that, but the fact that she tried to hide it from me sets off so many alarm bells. I will obviously have a proper discussion with her when she gets back, but for now I'm going to block her number. Since then, she has reached out to some family members who think that I'm being way too harsh and that I should give her the benefit of the doubt. They all seem to think that I'm going to force her to be out on the streets. So am I the jerk for doing what I did? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. First of all, I don't think you're the jerk at all, but secondly, it really seems like your sister was playing you for a fool. She was clearly lying to you about needing help with rent, or she figured out her money problems much sooner than you realized, and so instead of saying something about it, she's been enjoying the free money that you've been giving her. Like, how unfair is that? You're literally helping her out and she's taking advantage of you. And I'm right there with the original poster. Unless her boyfriend is like some millionaire or something like that, there's no way she didn't help pay for at least a little bit of that trip. And yes, if she can pay for a trip to Paris, then she can absolutely pay for her rent moving forward. So no, you are definitely not the jerk, because if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for fighting with my mother's husband after he freaked out on me for not cleaning the house? Because right now, there's a chance that they might get divorced, and I can't help but think that I might have played a role in that moving forward. Here's what happened. I'm a 30-year-old female, and I'm currently living in a shared space with my mom and her husband after running into some medical troubles and no longer being able to afford to live on my own. And before anyone says anything, yes, I am paying rent and my bills to live here. The issue started between me and her husband a few months after I moved in, with him taking every opportunity that he could to talk to himself about how much of a lazy jerk I am and how it must be nice that I'm stuck at home while I'm on medical leave from work, and that I'm faking my chronic illness flare-ups just to get away with doing nothing and generally just complaining about my existence anytime I wasn't in my room. So I started spending all my time in my room unless my mom was home, and only coming out to talk to her when she got back from work or updating her on my medical stuff. Well, apparently her husband has an issue with that as well. He gets mad whenever we talk and just generally acts like a jealous boyfriend, and that I'm trying to steal his girl away as if she isn't my mother. To keep things brief, it's essentially gotten to the point where I can't even leave my room without him starting something or finding issue over it, and finds even more issues in the fact that I don't leave my room because he expects me to play Cinderella and clean up after his messes every day and cook dinner for them every night, despite the fact that I cannot walk or stand for more than 20 minutes at a time, all without experiencing immense pain. And I even have doctor's orders saying that I can't do that, so most of the demands that he makes of me are just absolutely ridiculous, and I only end up hurting myself more or prolonging my injury. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to do more when I'm on restrictions of what I can do after suffering a back injury that I've already had to get 3 surgeries for, and I'm literally waiting to get more of. It's already frustrating feeling like a prisoner in my own body and being stuck somewhere I don't even want to be. So this leads to my main point of why I might be the jerk here. I ended up getting into a screaming match with her husband after he came home acting like a toddler. He was slamming doors and cabinets, he was stomping around and throwing things, and he was talking loud garbage about me, all because I didn't clean the house after getting home from another round of spine injections to try and manage the swelling that I'm experiencing. A lot of things were said, and my mom came home and they ended up getting into a huge fight that literally went on for 3 more days. And now my mom is saying that she threatened divorce and that she'll lose the house without his job to pay for it, and I just don't know what to do. I will admit that there are some times I can do more to try and help clean, but I've kind of stopped doing it out of spite because he talks garbage regardless if I do it or not. And while I would have no issues cooking for my mom, I have no desire to cook for someone who treats me like garbage, especially for things that I can't control, even if I know my refusal isn't helping the problem. I don't want my mom to suffer because of me. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? You are not the jerk, and trust me, you are not the reason they would be getting a divorce. It sounds like her husband is a massive piece of garbage. This guy is freaking out about you, someone who's ill and having back surgery, not cleaning the house and not cooking for him. It's like, what are you talking about? This isn't a vacation for you. You're not sitting around because you want to. You literally are sitting around because you have to. You literally can't even move and get things done. You could barely stand and walk. And this guy wants to be like, oh wow, it must be nice to be off work all the time, as well as him calling you lazy. Like, are you kidding me? Now, I've never had a severe back injury of this kind, but I have definitely pulled a muscle in my back, and that was a miserable experience. So I can only imagine the issues you go through on a daily basis. Like, even just the pulled muscle was like, wow, I can't like breathe properly or even walk properly. This sucks. So for you to have like multiple surgeries and get spinal injections, like that really must be an intense experience. And the fact that he doesn't understand that is insane to me. So no, I don't blame you for a second for standing up for yourself and yelling back at this jerk, because his behavior was absolutely unacceptable and he deserved to be shut down. Am I the jerk for leaving early from my aunt's house after my sister-in-law called me clingy and embarrassed me in front of my family? Here's what happened. So I had been visiting my aunt's place for a wedding, who lives a few hours away from me. She has 2 boys, ages 30 and 27, and the both of them are married to 2 beautiful and intelligent women. I met them only recently, and I have not hung out with them a lot. I always wanted older brothers since I only have an older sister, although I acknowledge that this was not their responsibility. My aunt loves me a lot though, and I asked her if I could stay at their place for a couple days more. At night, both of my cousins were with their wives, and I was helping my aunt with dinner. She asked me to call all of them downstairs, and when I went to the room, I heard my older sister-in-law saying, "Oh my god, when is she leaving? I don't know why she's so clingy. She annoyed us throughout the wedding and meddles in our family so much." And when she said that, my cousins just lightly laughed along. I'm unsure if they found humor in her words or if it was just all awkward laughter. My cousin saw me in the doorway, and it looked like he had seen a ghost. I just said, "Please come downstairs, dinner's ready." He then stopped me and asked if I had heard what she said, and I just gave him a smile and said while holding back tears, I did, but it's okay because she can have her opinion. It's okay if she doesn't like me. I did not take it into consideration that you guys are on a hectic schedule and force myself here. I'll do better, I promise. He apologized to me on her behalf, and she apologized as well, saying she was just stressed out about the busy schedule and packing, even though I'd been doing chores for them all day to not be dead weight. After the dinner, they tried to talk to me, but I just avoided them, and I ended up calling a friend. I talked to him to try and calm myself down because my feelings were really hurt and I felt unwanted. In the morning, I packed my bags early, and I told my aunt I'm gonna visit a friend in the city, then I have a flight late in the evening to go back home as soon as possible for work. My aunt was surprised and asked me to wait until my cousins wake up before I go, but I told her that I had said my goodbyes last night already. After seeing my friend, I just went to the airport a few hours early, and I sat in the lounge until it was time to go. My sister and I have shared GPS locations for safety purposes, and I forgot that she can see me being at the airport a couple days earlier than planned. So I told her everything, and when I got off the flight, I had missed phone calls and text messages from my aunt and my cousins. Apparently, my sister told my mom what went down, and she too was very unhappy. She then called my aunt and asked her about this and found out that she was unaware of all of it and that my cousins had just played it cool. So for a long story short, my aunt and uncle are super upset with my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law feels that I made an immature and rash decision and made her look bad in front of the entire family. I could have given them a chance the next day to fix things, but apparently I threw them all under the bus. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. These people clearly let their real feelings out while you weren't around, and you just happen to be there to see exactly how they feel. And that's like really unfortunate. Like once that cat's out of the bag, there's no way you're getting it back in. So in my opinion, I don't blame you for leaving, and I don't think you're the jerk for the way you reacted. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. My parents constantly talk down to me, despite the fact that I'm doing everything I can to live a good life. And now, after a recent incident with my sister, I am now being labeled as an ungrateful bad daughter, all because of things that are completely out of my control. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I am super introverted, unlike my very extroverted family. My youngest sister is very close to my dad and plays sports. My middle sister is charismatic but incredibly selfish, and she is constantly being fired from jobs and failing college. On the other hand, I'm a 22-year-old college student with a 3.5 GPA set to graduate in the spring of 2025. I have a full-time job at the university as a teaching assistant and as a program coordinator, and I also have a part-time job to help pay for some of my bills. Despite my efforts and achievements, I've never felt a strong bond with any particular parent. My dad put so much pressure on me to play sports that it became unenjoyable, and my parents are unsupportive of my passions. I have ADHD, so I struggle to focus and notice things, which my parents misinterpret as laziness or thoughtlessness. Recently, I spoke up against my mother for constantly berating me during our calls. She always points out my teenage flaws despite my efforts to change. We live in different states, and they rarely call me first. When I visit, I do my best to help out around the house and endure their criticism without reacting. During my teenage years, I had hormonal outbursts, but I don't do that anymore. When I ask my mom why she always lectures me, I was hoping to start a genuine, healthy conversation, but she just simply couldn't handle it. I had to attend community college because my parents didn't believe I'd make it through a year of college, even though they let my almost dropout sister go straight to a university. I'm currently abroad studying a foreign language with my boyfriend, and I recently found out that my crazy sister, whom I allowed to live with me due to her bad terms with most people, is causing issues again. She posted on her story, forgetting to remove me, that she was smoking the herb in my apartment and blew the smoke into my dog's face. Now, I don't care if she smokes, but I set a ground rule. If you are going to smoke or vape, it had to be outside because I have asthma and it's not good for the dog. And most importantly, we live in a state that doesn't allow that. I confided in my youngest sister about what I saw, and she told my parents. I didn't want to tell them because they take me telling them these things as me bullying my sister and treating me as a villain, but they are also upset with my sister and they are happy to know. I planned to deal with it when I got back, but my youngest sister loves my dog, so she told them. Well, my dad called me and ranted about what he's going to do about my sister since he helps me pay my rent and pays her phone bill. Then he turned it around on me, saying how I'm such a bad daughter because I sometimes talk back and how ungrateful I am for everything I have. I didn't say anything and I just took the verbal smackdown. And this is exactly why I didn't want them to know. It always turns into how I'm also the problem when I didn't do anything. I always thank them for everything and never ask for more. I'm just at a loss of what to think. I don't want to classify my parents as awful, though I do feel worthless and have been feeling this way for a long time. What should I do? First of all, you are not a bad daughter, and I really just cannot stand the fact that your parents have made you feel that way. You are literally about to graduate college with honors. You've worked hard by yourself, by the way, to get all these things out of the way, and you really have tried to be a good kid. So for your dad to be like, wow, you're such a bad daughter, while also simultaneously ignoring the fact that his other daughter is being an idiot, like that is all just so unacceptable, and I just can't believe that they would treat you that way. So no, you're not a bad daughter, and in my opinion, it seems like you're doing everything right. I cost my job nearly $6,000 by maliciously complying to one of the dumbest policies I've ever heard in my life. And considering how awful they treated me, I am seriously happy to have gotten back at these people in the way that I did. Here's what happened. So at my previous job, I worked in a company that was regulated by multiple powerful government agencies. When they asked for something, they want it pronto. And if the delay was too long, they'd rather have us shut down business rather than wait for data, information, or prototypes. So I was given a company phone that I had to take everywhere with me. There were rotating on-call periods, but I'm expected to be available available if anything goes wrong, and the phone was an Apple phone. It wasn't a US-based model, and it had 2 different networks, and it included some extra tech with it as well, which basically means I could jump on whichever network was stronger, and maybe even use both at the same time. So all this to say is that it was very good, and it should have been pretty expensive. Now, as a side note, I love nature, and I can and have gone camping, often sometimes in remote places, and I've often gone a few days without seeing another human being. 18 months into the job, there was a new schedule where I got 3 days of being on call and expected to work a regular 8-hour day, having to live within 20 minutes of work, and then 4 days of being off. This worked pretty amazing for me. So as soon as the next on-call team got on and started doing their job, I would be on a plane to get to another national park under my belt, or some other remote state park, or even whatever I had my sights set on. Now, I thought it would be helpful to carry the company phone that I was given, you know, just in the off chance that I might be needed. Because here's the thing, in the year and a half that I've worked there, I was never contacted when not being on call, as we had a strong culture of communications, and the teams knew what they had to know in order to troubleshoot. But nevertheless, I took the company phone along with me. Now, during the trip, the screen got damaged. Not so much that the phone was inoperable, but definitely difficult to use. I got back, went through the forums, and got IT to repair or just give me another one. Some manager high up in the IT chain went off and was going on and on about how expensive those devices were, how difficult it was for them to configure them, and how much harder it was to get them in the US and all this other BS. She then told me that I am not to take the company phone and hardware along with me wherever I go, as it's supposed to go between my residence and the office and nowhere else. And she was pretty explicit about it as well. So I shot off an email later, keeping my manager in the loop and the department head in regards to what she said and basically confirming it. So it was right about then that I decided to maliciously comply. A few weeks later, I decided to take some PTO. Now, the PTO policy was pretty good, and thus I took off for 3 weeks, and I still had over 3 weeks remaining. And on that trip, as per stated by my manager, I did not take any of the company hardware along with me. Well, as you can probably imagine, an all-hands-on-deck situation arose, and my manager was pissed at me not being able to answer the company phone. I mean, it's not like I was in the woods, visiting my very dear cousin who just had twins and a very difficult delivery or anything like that. I literally took care of my cousin while her husband looked after the kids. So my manager had to get me on my phone, and she had to go through some of my work friends for my personal phone, since I was pretty good about not giving out my personal information to people at work. When I answered the phone, my manager was furious. She said to me, "Why aren't you answering the company phone?" I responded by saying, "Well, I'm not at home. I don't have the company phone on me." My manager then said, "Never mind that. Get back online immediately. We have an all-hands-on-deck situation." I responded by saying, "I'm sorry, but I don't have any of the company hardware with me." And when I said that, my manager started swearing on the phone. I further explained that this manager is in IT, and they said I wasn't to take the company hardware along with me wherever I go. Now, this was clearly news to this manager because they were like, "What? When did that happen?" I responded by saying I sent an email stating what she said, and I kept you and our other department head in the loop. My manager then goes through her email, finds it, and then starts swearing again. "You need to come back immediately." But I responded by saying, "Sorry, I can't do that. My cousin is pretty much still out of commission after a very difficult twin pregnancy. I'm literally taking care of her, and I was pretty clear about it before going on PTO. I would not be able to come back even if I wanted to." My manager then cuts off the call and then calls me back in 30. My manager says, "Do you have anyone who has keys to your apartment?" I responded by saying yes. She then said, "Give me their contact. I am going to get you the computer and a screen, as well as all the hardware that you need, shipped right to you before night, and you can get back. We have a serious situation." Now, me knowing that I have a slight upper hand and that I'm striking when the metal's hot, I responded by saying, "Okay, can I get more PTO to compensate this intrusion?" My manager then responded by saying, "Sure, I'll send an email approving this." And by 8:00 p.m., I get my company phone, computer, and other hardware shipped directly to me. I also get 2 emails. One email approving the extended PTO for this intrusion, and the second email from my department head stating that the original company policy is still in effect. In fact, a new policy has been put in place for some employees to have their company hardware with them, even when they have PTO, and that anything else said by anyone else was to be disregarded. And the cherry on top was that the IT manager got this email as well. When I returned from my PTO, that IT manager was nowhere to be seen. It turns out that she had been demoted, she couldn't handle that kind of rejection, and then she decided to quit. So this company had spent over $6,000 to ship it on the same day and get this hardware to me as fast as possible. And honestly, with all things considered, standard, that's definitely a mistake they won't be making twice. Yeah, this is one of those situations where people need to like stay in their lane and not make some like overarching like sweeping regulation over something so minor. Like it's so stupid making some kind of policy like that where you're like, okay, you can't take that phone anywhere besides your job or your home. It's like, seriously, do you have to be that strict? You're seriously gonna make my life more difficult just because of one incident? It's not like the original poster broke the phone on purpose, like come on. And the fact that they did this while you were on PTO and they're like, no, you have to come in, we need you right now. And that they spent $6,000 to get this figured out, in my opinion, is so overboard it's not even funny. Like that IT manager that made this call is a complete idiot, and they had no business being in that kind of like leadership position. So yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen again because these people clearly do not know what they're doing. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.